Alright, I'm wearing hockey in an Entertainment Guy video. I apologize, but these things happen. It's barely hockey, it's a fashion jersey, it's not even anything they wear on the ice. So, that's kind of what happens. Um, so last night I did a video where I talked about a phrase from Archer, where Archer would tell people to eat a buffet of dicks, which I thought was amazing. I used to have a thing I used to do at my job where if I swore at somebody, I tip my hat. And I would do that because I was said, look, you tip your hard hat, and then it's not rude. They can't report you to HR because then you tip the hard hat. Why don't you go yourself? And you give them a little tip, and then of course you can always use the joke. Well, I just gave them the tip, and it has varying wonderful happenings from there, and it underlines the fact that I know there's language that people find offensive, and I find that weird because it's all language. It's all language to me. Now there are certain phrases and certain things that I agree are offside. No, don't bring that to my channel. Don't bring that to my. But outside of channel, if somebody wants to say whatever, that's fine. And it's funny because swearing properly can be very powerful. George Carlin did it very, very well. And it goes well beyond his 7 words you can't say on television. A skit that he made up completely. There was no actual list of those 7 words. But they're words you didn't hear on TV. And the funny thing is, you look at it now, some of the words that he said you're going to hear on TV, and other ones you won't hear on TV. And there are a lot of comedies, especially, where there's some swearing in them that's pretty funny. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is rated R. Why? Because of the scene at the car rental desk, the Enterprise desk. Without that scene, the movie loses at least 15% of its funny. Steve Martin, in that moment, is absolutely hilarious. And we all remember the huge rant that Clark Griswold goes on at the end of Christmas Vacation, which is everybody's favorite moment in Christmas Vacation. For the most part, it's everybody's, and it's because of how he swears, but he does it in a manner that's entertaining. And it's something that I don't, language doesn't bother me. I know, Yvonne's not here. What happens? Shannon, she leaves. Shannon does a swearing video. Trailer Park Boys does it very, very well. But Trailer Park Boys puts it on at a level that she won't. Yvonne doesn't normally watch it with me. I will laugh really hard at something that gets said by Ricky, and she's like, "Did he say?" I'm like, "All right, I got to turn it off. Sorry." But it's funny, and then she's disturbed that I'm laughing at it. But at the same time, she finds all of the Jay and Silent Bob movies very funny. So right from Clerks right through to Clerks 2, she thinks Clerks 2 is one of the funniest movies ever. And Clerks 2 is a movie that's capable of offending a lot of people. Dogma offends a lot of people. I don't know about Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. What strikes me with Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back is that you've got Luke and Leia in the same movie, and you don't hear about it very often. You've got Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher in the same movie, and nobody really pays much attention. I think where Kevin Smith got that movie right was he didn't put them in the same scene together. And that's probably part of the reason that they both agreed to do it, because it wasn't going to be some kind of a fandom thing. Although the fight between Jay and Mark Hamill's evil villain at the end of the movie, 2 things about that. One, Mark Hamill swears a lot, and in an amazing manner, and he's kind of Luke Skywalker, and yet, if you listen to the voice he does, he's kind of the Joker as well. And I don't get offended by language. I've always found it weird. And this seems to be, when I'm watching American TV, this is the whole offense thing. Boobs are bad, so any kind of nudity, and it's just everybody's up in arms. Cursing and swearing is really, you can't do that on regular network TV. But gratuitous violence is okay. That's fine. That's okay. I know Criminal Minds, I can only watch a couple episodes of that in any given point in time. If I watch too many, it causes me to have trouble sleeping, and then I'm having really messed up dreams about forensic stuff that I'd rather not think about. And I discovered a couple things. One off, You can only watch so many forensic shows before your brain starts messing with it. And two, your brain can come up with a far more disturbing crime scene than television. And that's, that's a thing. So for me, when I'm watching a show, and whether it's South Park or it's Clerks, or if they swear properly, it's really funny. But there are shows and movies where there's a lot of swearing in it, and you'll hear it and you'll go, they're doing it for shock value. So the language is there, but it's done for shock value. There is a value to swearing. And when you watch Archer, it's actually really funny. My wife, she did a pre-order on this Archer fabric. And as soon as she talked to me about it, she asked me, I hadn't even seen it. She said, do you need Archer fabric to make a t-shirt or a shirt? And I said, yes. Are you sure? Yes. Well, you haven't seen it yet. My answer is yes. So she showed it to me, and she showed me there was a Cheryl panel as well, and it's got all their quotes, right? And the day before it was going to be released, all of these people who take offense showed up. They all joined this group, and it was all to complain about the language on the panels from Archer. So Yvonne showed me the quotes that were on a couple of the panels, and I said, do they use these ones? And I did a YouTube search for best Archer quotes, and I found some of the most offensive of all the Archer quotes. And she's like, no, they didn't use that. So here's this woman who's making a fabric based on Archer, who's taking quotes that are popular. She clearly weeded out the most offensive ones. And the internet gets her shut down. As in, when she shipped out, the panel I wanted with Cheryl on it was removed. So, last day, somebody takes a screenshot and shows it to another group and goes, look what she's selling. She condones this kind of language. And it turns into it's misogynist and it's anti people who are in a wheelchair. And all I'm thinking is, you guys didn't watch the show at all. You haven't heard the way that Archer picks at Cyril every single show, or the way that Krieger is, or the way Cheryl talks about people, or what drives me nuts, and this is what kind of gets me too. And sometimes I see it even with a video. I'll say something, and then people are like, I take offense to that. How can you say that? Because I said it. Now, I'm Canadian, so freedom of speech doesn't exist. It's freedom of expression, and if you're out committing hate speech publicly, you'll probably have a police officer pat you on the shoulder and say, you might want to move on, or we'll throw you in the car. But I really think that people who get offended so easily by this stuff, and clearly by the people in this fabric group that were offended by Archer, never watched it. It drives me nuts when people are offended by something they haven't watched. So when I tell you that I find something offensive, whether it's these torture porn movies, for lack of a better term, that are out there, like Hostel, I'm highly offended by that, and Human Centipede I find absolutely offensive. But I've watched parts of them. I have sat down and made myself at least start them. And then it gets to a point where I'm like, I can't do this. I think that there's a lot of people out there who want to tell you what you can and can't say and what you can and can't watch, who've never gone anywhere near it. And their answer will be, well, that's offensive. Offensive can be good. And swearing can be good. It has also led me to believe that, and I'm going to post this video and see what you guys think. If I should post a list of my favorite movies and TV shows that contain a lot of swearing, but I have found them to be very entertaining. I guess Goodfellas would be on there too. Goodfellas is really rank because they're mafia. So of course they're going to swear a lot, because that's kind of what happens when you're really likely to live very short life and not die of natural causes. You might as well swear while you're at it. But I'd be interested to know, like, that there just seems to be this thing that's gone on with social media now, where anything that I say is put under a microscope, which I understand I'm a YouTuber, that's going to happen. But anything everybody says now is put under a microscope, and they can't wait to ruin people's lives and careers over something that gets said. That the first thing I ask with any of these is, what's the context? I'll see a quote on Facebook or a quote on Twitter or somewhere, and I'll go, what's the context? So I'll look up the whole interview. If there's an audio clip, I'll listen to it. If there's a video, I'll watch it. And I see some things that go on, and I think, man, I really wish people were more critical in their thinking, not just of what they see in these snippets, but go in and look through the whole thing. I try to do that when I'm talking about hockey. I try to make sure that I'm not taking things out of context as much as possible, because the media will tend to blow things up. So it's an interesting thing, language, and people getting offended by it really, really easily. And that's why when I did a review last night and posted this morning for the new Ministry album, I'm right away like, hey, you better not be easily offended or this album isn't for you. And yet, there isn't really anything in the messages of those songs that I find offensive. It's basically along the lines of, we support people who are nice to each other. If you really read between the lines in any Ministry album, they really they're environmentalists. They are big believers that planet Earth is a pretty cool place to support and take care of. Why is that controversial? Anyways, I'd be interested to know your thoughts on this. Every time a controversy comes up with something on TV, and it just seems like the people that lead the protests are very often people who don't even watch the show or have never watched it. And it's so hard to have a normal conversation with somebody who's never watched something that says, well, like for instance, on this channel a few months ago, I talked about how I didn't like MMA. I've watched MMA, and I haven't watched it as much lately as I used to. I've watched some of it. I watched the Holly Holm beating the crap out of Ronda Rousey, and a few of the other fights and whatnot. But again, I ended up having to come out and say this is the last time I'll talk about it, and that's part of the reason why, because I don't watch it as much as I did 25 years ago. So it's just one of those things. Or I guess 22 years ago. How long ago was it that was really big that everybody's renting the VHSs? Remember VHS? That was. Anyways, I'm getting off track here. I just wanted to know how other people feel about this, because again, the Archer thing just really. When I see people saying, I don't like this quote from Archer, I'm thinking, you don't like every quote from Archer then, because that's nowhere near as offensive as the other stuff he says. Holy crap. The stuff he says to Lana alone in one episode would make most of these people's heads explode. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know what your favorite show is that uses coarse language in the comments section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.